And when I was, I think 19 is when I started my spiritual journey. That was the first time, honestly, a woman looked at me, and she looked at me just in the purest presence of love. I can't explain it because I was 19. I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I did not know what was going on, but she basically looked at me, and it was really one of the first times that that my soul felt like seen. It like came through.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out, Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth, and spirituality. My name's Maxi, I'm your host, and there's a lot of love, feminine energy, wisdom, alchemy, romance coming your way in this episode. And that's because I'm speaking with Sophie Burns. In her own words, Sophie is a love coach specializing in liberation, empowerment through self-love, sexuality, and spirit. I first discovered Sophie on TikTok, in fact, and I saw a video of her telling a story about a time in her life when she was in full surrender and really living through the flow of life that guided her through synchronicity to all the way to Germany, in fact to Berlin, and how she overcame adversity in that moment and was able to surrender to the flow of life and make the best out of this trip that initially started in not such a quote-unquote good way. I found extremely inspiring. I found interesting, a breath of fresh air, something different, and very wise. And I really loved her energy from the first moment that I saw her. And you can clearly tell that she has life experience and integrated wisdom that is emanating from her being in the fields of romance, relationships, spirituality, embodiment, the feminine, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm actually really looking forward to bringing this conversation. So Sophie and I, we discovered, as always, a broad variety of topics. Let me just go through some of them. Talked about radical honesty, worthiness, and self-love. Oh my God, I cannot... We talked about it on the podcast a couple of times. You know that it's also like a big one for me. And so, yeah, it's also really healing and beautiful for me, myself, to have those conversations and to address very personal construction sites in my life and things that I want to work through. And so I did, also with Sophie. Very beautiful, feeling worthy. Getting rid of like this shame and guilt that we carry around when growing up in a quote-unquote privileged society and country or whatever, because guilt doesn't really serve anyone, does it? And so it comes with a responsibility, and to claim that and to own that and then make the best out of it is, I think, really the way to go. And yeah, Sophie has like a really, really cool take on it, and I hope you'll enjoy that. We talked about inner and outer, but more or less inner freedom, and really returning to the body, to the embodiment, like to the feeling, and in connecting to your intuition. For all of you beautiful women out there, I think it's really important, yes. And I really encourage you to also maybe look at Sophie's stuff. It's really powerful. She's doing amazing work there in this area. So returning to the feminine, finding refuge in your own body, finding purpose. And also towards the end, we also discussed the responsibilities that come along with doing spiritual work, being a facilitator, holding space. Because I think it's often a little bit overlooked and taken lightly, but you know, this is all very deep stuff and deep work that we're doing, and so it's important that you are able to identify and recognize the power and responsibility that you carry as a facilitator. So as I said, broad variety. Enjoy the conversation. I love talking to Sophie. Another one of those where, yeah, just like going out, seeing somebody I found inspiring, hitting them up, bam, doing a podcast. So I'm so grateful for that. Enjoy the episode with Sophie Burns. I'm very excited to speak to you today. That is because the way that I discovered you is like, I don't know, millions of other people. When I look at the story views or like the TikTok views of your account, have also, you know, found you that way. I first saw your Berlin Storytime video. And nice. Not only because I live next to Berlin, I felt connected to that, but moreover because you spoke about synchronicity, and it was, you know, the first experience that you share, or like the thing when you travel to Barcelona, and then this guy was basically saying, I'm seeing another girl, and then all of a sudden you were like, okay, what do I do now? You know, do I still go to Berlin, and how you handled this? And I want to also give you the space of like talking about that yourself, but like it was just like a breath of fresh air for me, you know, because normally then people are getting angry and frustrated and stuff, and you were just reacting in a way that I think what spirituality is all about, you know. Can you handle reality as it is and then make the best out of it? Without the woo-woo, you know, it's just like, okay, well, life's a gift, you know, let's enjoy the ride. So, yeah, that's how I found you, and I, like to open up the discussion that way.
Oh my gosh, for whatever reason, I mean, we always hear woo-woo like thrown around, but I literally just heard it in a different way for the first time. Like, what if we put like the woo back in woo-woo? Like, what if we like bring the like celebration to that? Because I mean, I think there is so many ways to access what's true, and we oscillate through all these different like levels of consciousness, and none of them are wrong. But at some of those levels that seem a little bit more woo-woo, like, I don't know, sometimes you go there and then you come back and you have to like plug back into like where other people are at. And yeah, I found it very entertaining how resonant that story was with so many people, because like that's just been one of those fun like anecdotal stories that I have in my back pocket from my life that I've told so many times. And then when I told it on TikTok, to feel that it was like so many people were like, wow, I didn't realize you could live like that or think like that, or that things actually happen, you know, in those ways. And yeah, I've been so grateful to feel how received that was. The impact of me just like not resisting life. And I think that's really what it is to like be in the integration of your spirituality. And like you just said about how can you actually meet reality where it is? Like, I think the point of all of this path, the doing the inner work, working with a therapist, a healer, a coach, whatever your like way, psychedelics, whatever your way is, the point kind of being, can I build the emotional resilience and the knowing of my own self that I can be with whatever is, no matter what it is, no matter what emotions I'm being asked to feel, can I feel them? No matter what my curriculum has in front of me, can I rise and can I meet it? And I think some of us have a easier disposition towards that already, just based on different factors that have happened in our lives and different, I have like a secure attachment style with life itself. And that's a blessing and that's a gift. And not everyone has that. Some people have a different curriculum and more work to be done to trust in life in that way. But even just knowing that it's an option, even just knowing that people live like that, I think has started to open a lot of people to trust more deeply and to be with what is more intimately. So I've enjoyed watching that as the aftermath of just telling a simple story on the internet.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a script flip, to be honest, like, because you expect, I don't know, and this is also maybe, I don't know, a sad status quo sort of statement where we can just like see where we as a society collectively are, where there's a lot of mistrust and a lot of disconnection and insecurity around I don't know how to handle those kind of situations when life gets a little bit more and the waters get a little bit more turbulent, and when quote unquote bad things happen, it's just like, can we remove those labels and just like see it as life happening, life taking place, and life being the result of billions of years of evolution that led to this point right now, right here, and I get to interact with this situation, with this moment in front of me, without labeling it as good, bad, fair, unfair, whatever. So that was just, and that's why a simple story sticks out, because it goes against the narrative. That's it. It just goes against the narrative of how many people will navigate something like that. So I guess that's what makes it makes it very special. Yeah.
I read a book a couple months ago. I believe it was called On Fire. I'm not exactly sure how I came across it, but there was this line in this book about victims and victors, and they say the same thing, but it's how they say it that makes all the difference. And they both ask the same question, and the question is, why me? Victims are like, why me? Like, why did he have another girl? Like, why did that happen? Why did that happen, right? And a victor is like, why me? Wow, like, and you can ask the same thing, and it's, to me, there's so much power in that. It's like, actually, nothing needs to change, but it's just how you relate to what is. That is where you have your power, and you can change your whole life in the simple tone by which you ask the same question that you're already asking. And I think that's really powerful. I think that's something I've been subconsciously doing. And then when I read that line in the book, I was like, there's so much normalcy around the victim narrative. And I even see it like just in how we as a society relate to one another. When someone's in that space, there's such a tendency to meet them there, to coddle them there, to confirm them in their narrative, because it's requires a fierce love and a boldness to actually not pity someone when they're asking for pity, and to say, you've just been blessed. Do you not see this? And that's really, there's a great tenderness and delicacy and grace about how to go about actually doing that, because people's emotions and their nervous systems and their vulnerability is very activated when you're in those moments of, surprise transformation in your life. But I think, maybe this is just something that I wish to see or wish to participate in creating the change around, is actually not only not letting myself sink into victim, but actually encouraging us to build language to not play that at all when it's not the truth. It's maybe a little tangential for where we were going with that, but it feels important to speak to.
Yeah, sure. No, speak the truth. I mean, honestly, that's what it's all about. And I've saw another video of you where I think you, and this is where I'm connecting now some dots, where a friend of yours was doing that in some way, by being honest with you and authentic with you, and maybe in a, I don't know, let's say socially, emotionally intelligent way, or I don't know, like NLP way, not like the primal example, but at the same time she hit you right in the core, and she's just like, she was connecting with you spot on, and at that point you were able to handle it and transmute it into wisdom and into something that, how you shared it, was really something that you carry right up until now.
And maybe I'll speak to this piece because I think people that are in these kinds of dynamics where they either know that they're not fully in their authentic expressed truth around their friends, around their communities, online, whatever it is, there's so many reasons for that, usually coming down to safety and belongingness and one's own exploration of their authenticity. If you've never even tasted that yourself, how could you know what to bring forth? Right? But I think there's this piece where there's no right way to address that either. And like, she just brought to me her heart and just spoke to me her truth. And I just want to like bring that down into the simplicity of that and the basics of that. You don't have to have like a background in like NLP or therapy or anything like that to be able to evoke that in people. I believe that we're all calling each other higher. That's part of it. And the only real way that we do that is just by like revealing ourselves moment to moment. What is true? What do I feel? And it's not like a your problem or a my problem thing, but like, if I feel closed in your presence, me naming that helps both of us. And that's kind of all that she did. She was just like, I don't feel you when I'm with you. And like, I'm curious, why is that? Where are you? Are you okay? Like, you know, what safety do we need to establish for you to come out of your shell? You know, I feel your masks. I see them, right? So that's really all that she did. And I know that so many of us have these kinds of dynamics all the time. They're very normalized because we play roles. We play roles for each other. And if there aren't breaths of fresh air between those roles where you actually connect with the people that you're connecting with, then yeah, it's like you're just kind of on the surface. And this friend of mine is deep. And she was like, I know you're deep too. Come with me. Where are you? I want to feel you in these realms. And honestly, my life changed dramatically after that day. Like, yeah.
How so?
How so?
How so? Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I want to go into the details of this, but I basically had been, this was all kind of 2020, you know, COVID, like, I chose a place to live and a job to do and a kind of a lifestyle that I would not have normally chosen. I chose it in reaction to COVID. And kind of this was in like, you know, October, November of that year when she initiated that conversation for me. And it was just like dominoes started falling and my life changed dramatically. And it basically felt like going from reacting to COVID and like reacting to life to beginning to reclaim my power back and to sit back in the driver's seat and to choose my life more consciously. That was definitely one core domino in that experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, you even use like some like how you put things are very similar to how I put them. Like going back into the driver's seat is also like a metaphor that I use a lot of times. And how I also sort of define spirituality is like you just return to the center where you drive the bus, and not your ego or like some sort of like lower part of yourself, but you, like the self or whatever you want to call it.
And I think something that I've been working with over the last couple of years is like when I'm in my body and I can feel what I desire and I know what the true action is, I act. And when I don't know, I surrender. I enter into my devotion, and I allow God, or whatever that energy word is for you, to work through me. And I love that dance of like, when I know, I act, and when I don't, I surrender. And then even knowing that for myself, my own relationship with the divine allows me deeper connection in my relations horizontally, where like when I know what I want, I can act that. And when I don't, I can invite my friends to participate, to play with me, to bring their gifts, to steer the ship, those kinds of things. And so I feel like what we practice in our own spiritual practice, our own personal practice, our own healing work is directly applicable to all of the realms of our life in much that same way.
Well, okay, so yeah, like you really don't talk around the bush, do you? It's really like straight truth. Yeah, that's awesome. I really resonate with what you're saying, and I think that I have to ask now because I actually don't know any of your like background or any like what's the, and also for the listeners, what's the, and you can, I frame questions always very openly. So what's the context for how you arrive where you are today? Because you're speaking some truths there, and people who in some way, shape or form looked into those realms and went and looked inside will arrive at similar destinations. And so like, how did you arrive there? What's your context?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think it's always relevant to begin with, and you can call this privilege or just the truth of those stories, that I grew up in a really safe and beautiful, loving home environment. And so I think that provides, like I mentioned at the beginning, like I have a secure attachment style to life itself. And I think that's a gift that I have, and other people have that, and other people form that in different ways. But that being really core for the relationship that I have with the divine, just that my body has learned love in that way, like first and foremost. But also in my home, there was definitely like an atheist energy, and it was very, don't believe in anything, nothing is real, like just really kind of hyper intellectual conversations, which were incredibly beautiful and incredibly enriching in their own way, but left me very thirsty for God. And so, or for whatever, I didn't even know what to call it. I definitely did not feel comfortable with the word God for many, 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 many years. And when I was, I think 19 is when I started my spiritual journey. That was the first time, honestly, a woman looked at me, and she looked at me just in the purest presence of love. I can't explain it because I was 19. I didn't have the vocabulary for it. I did not know what was going on, but she basically looked at me, and it was really one of the first times that my soul felt like seen. It like came through, and it was like the crack to my shell. And I spent many years after that in lots of different spaces, a lot of like wilderness spaces, backpacking, sailing, like deep in the woods, that kind of work. I traveled, and I worked in a monastery for a while teaching English, but I was also exposed to Buddhism, and that was like one of my first big exposures. In college, I had friends that were Sufis and really connected to mystical traditions. I had friends that were deep in psychedelia. The college that I went to, I was able to take Kundalini yoga for credit. And so I, for 2.5 years, took Kundalini yoga every single week for credit. And I did not know what was going on for probably the first 2 years of that. I just was like, okay, sure, energy, nice. I don't feel it, but like, cool. But I'm so grateful for all of that. It gave me a lot of foundation. And honestly, I mean, like, there's so many twists and turns in my story. I learned so much through just really deep relationships, my own explorations in medicine ceremonies, traveling the world. I was in I still have no idea what language to put to it, but I was in a kind of a guru-disciple dynamic for about a year.
Okay.
where I had a guru and like
Mm.
was in a devotional space to someone who was in a space of truth and also in a space of abuse. And so I learned a lot from going full cycle into and out of that experience. And it was really the descent and the return home where I've really distilled my unique medicine into a way that's actually integrated and shareable. So I'm so blessed that I had that really challenging experience, and I have no idea how to put language to it, especially publicly. It's hardly something I know how to speak about in my private life. But that's part of my path. And then, yeah, a number of different like trainings and certifications in coaching and different energy work modalities and herbalism and these kinds of things, just to kind of bring a lot of my experiences into a way that's, you know, reliably certified in this matrix as well. Does that answer your question? It was kind of all over the board. That's the truth of how I got here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. There is this is no space for right or wrong or something. It's beautiful how you carve your own way in and what you touched on. What I would be curious on about is to go a little bit deeper into that moment where this woman was looking at you when you were 19 as like some sort of like first initiatory experience where you felt something. I guess how do I frame this? What was it that what was the feeling that this experience evoked in you or triggered in you and did for you, which then led you on this path? Because coming from, and I see some similarities, coming from an atheist family such as mine as well, somewhat, to then really now 180 degrees come back and throwing around the word God all the time because I think it's just the truth or like one word for that. I'm curious on how this experience was like shaping this change and why that was so significant for you.
I can speak to this because it's also something I feel like I try to play with in my life now, where so what she did was she was just fully in her truth, for lack of a better word. And she was just standing in this like walkway along the beach, and I was walking and I just like looked at her, and it was kind of like one of those moments where like the veil lifts and you're just like in this timeless moment, and it's cosmic and it's powerful and whatever. The goddess herself comes to you, right, through all these forms. That's kind of what it felt like to me, except I like went to a big party school. I was in a sorority. Like I was like in this whole other world. I had already transferred. Like I knew I was leaving that space, and I had spent many months already doing lots of like wilderness stuff and reconnecting to my body and reconnecting to myself. So I was already like open and available for experiences like her and things like her to come in and find me. Like I was magnetically available for that. And basically, I think all she did was just not play roles and just see me. And it was probably 5 seconds long. Like I don't even know, but I know that it changed my life. Like it was just like one of those moments. And I say that I play with this now because I can access full embodied presence and heart open, like through my body whenever I want to cultivate that. And so sometimes I really enjoy when I'm walking down the street, I really particularly enjoy this when I see like 16-year-old girls. I don't do any, I'm not at all like invasive with the energy, but I will look and I will emanate love, and I will like, if they want to be seen, that I'm available to see them and to plug in with them. And I don't just do this with 16-year-old girls, although I find it very fun to plant that seed in that really prime age for young women. But for anybody, like we always have the opportunity to let go of the roles that we play. And maybe it's a little bit of like a trickster quality. It's a little bit of an ability to go past the edge and to be like, hey, remember that we're playing a game here? Or like, hey, remember that whatever. So that's kind of what she did. And I think we all have access to that if we can do it in a good way.
Oh yeah, that feels also true to me. I received that. It's really, and this is why there's no like too small like random acts of kindness and too small things that you can do and energies that you can bring out and share, because you never know what it does for your surroundings and for other people. I have that now more and more, that I'm really looking inside and then sharing from that place where I'll be getting hit up a year later, 2 years later, by people who obviously I long forgotten about what was the content of the conversation, but it did something for them on a profound level. Right. And I'm like in awe about it. And I also cannot really remember that I actually even said something like that, but apparently I did. And so I would also see that as a massive encouragement for people to, I guess people will know, and you will know when it feels right to share, when it feels right and aligned to look at somebody and connect with someone or say something from that space. And I think also it's a little bit of a muscle that you have to train. So your friend, what she did, there will be, I guess, when she does it to 10 people, there will be maybe 5, 6, 7, I don't know, where in that moment it backfires straight away, and people cannot really resonate and handle it. And so you have to flex the muscle to then see in the long run what it does, not only for yourself, but obviously for the other person. And that most of the time there's a big win there.
Yeah. I find it very powerful to look at how when we're all mirroring each other, especially our closest relations, our family, our loved ones, our dear friends, they're mirroring us, not only like our ego in some ways, like the friends you hang out with are like literally like other expressions of these parts of yourself, and you get to like see them embodied and play with them, but it's you, right? Like we are mirroring these pieces. And I find that some people are very resistant to receive the feedback or the truths of their most intimate people because of the vulnerability factor. But when we actually recognize that, like, if your loved one or your dear friends are going to share something with you like this in this way, to be defensive is to put up a wall to your own self. And it requires like tremendous humility to say, I'm not sure that you're right, but let me at least let the truth that you're sharing touch me and feel how that touches me.
Yeah.
Big.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, those are projectors, aren't they? We are projecting all the time. And yeah, I guess it always says more about the other person when seeing a big reaction or something, like when, it's not you, it's what's happening within them. But what you were talking about earlier, I would like to go a little bit deeper into, because you were talking about your background and also some of the privileges that came along with that. I can certainly resonate with that. It also goes into worthiness. I want to also actually explore that with you, because
it's big.
I don't know, just out of very personal interest, because this is like something massively triggering for me. But before we go there, I would like to go to people who are listening to this who say, I don't have so much trust in life, to be honest. I don't have that divine connection and that trust and that deep intimacy with myself in the way of, trusting the flow of life and trusting it's all for the highest, because I have been disappointed, hurt, abused, whatever the case. And so I would like to, just open that up a little bit and have you share maybe a little bit, I don't know, how can we approach those kind of situations? Yeah.
To me, this circles back a little bit to this victim-victor piece as well, right? Because I've been sitting for many years with the truth of my privileges across many different domains, and for many years silencing myself, because who am I to say anything about anything? I'm a privileged white American woman whatever. And as I come into my deeper relation with myself, with God, all these things, it's like all of our stories matter, including the context of your privileges or of your struggles or whatever it is. It's like all of that matters. And what world do you want to play in? Do you want to co-create? Like, I want to live in a world where people tell their stories and they own who they are and they're celebrated for that and all of those things. So I have to do that. And so even though being like in the TikTok space where you tell your stories and anybody can just comment and say anything at all, and I've received like my deepest insecurity kind of pieces, like literally spoken to me by like random people on the internet, I have to still sit with like, that's okay. I can hold that too. And no one comes here and like lives a perfect life and like gets it all handed to them on a platter. Like whatever your notion of people who have it better than you or worse than you or whatever that is, like we each have the perfect curriculum that we need for ourselves. There's no other way. And so the worst things that have ever happened to you, usually if you can look back on them, there is this beautiful continuity of how those things carved your character and allowed for your superpowers to come out, or allowed for opportunities to reach you, or whatever that is. And I think when we're so focused on our own suffering here now, we're like, I don't live where I want to live. I don't work the job I want to work. Like that person left me. Like whatever your present moment drama victim narrative is, there's such a default to zoom in on that and to validate that. And we want to see it and hold it and recognize it and listen to it. And also, I always say this, like, let's not lose sight of the miracle. In the scheme of things, like, we are in the cosmic desert womb abyss oasis. I don't know what you call this absolute wilderness of wonder that our gem of an earth happens to reside within or have emerged within. And we are but the flesh of the earth herself. We are the soil and oceans who have taken on skeletal structures and have within us all of these beautiful organs and systems that work perfectly together. And like, there's so much beauty. There's so much miracle in every breath, in every tree in the freaking parking lot outside your Walmart. Like, there's so much beauty. And I don't want to play into even entertaining the conversations on like focusing on the discrepancies in privilege, because that denies the fact that we're supposed to all come here and have different experiences. How can we celebrate it and not make it wrong that I happen to be white and come from a a loving home versus someone who has a different curriculum, right? Like I can hold the compassion and the tenderness and the recognition, I had a different experience in some ways than you, or I had a similar experience to you, or But there's so many diverse dimensions that craft us as people that to focus only on the ones that are like, it's like that horrible screeching sound in the general narrative of the public. It's like there is a cosmic symphony with the most beautiful instruments ever playing upon us in every single moment, and she is always singing. Like, can we please reorient to the miracle? That's my hot take on that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I could go on, but I won't. We have to start my own podcast at this rate.
That was that'll make a good clip for social media for sure. Yeah, you're completely in your truth there, and I resonate with everything you said 100%. And yeah, feeling sorry, feeling guilty doesn't help anyone, does it? And so for me, it often then comes to responsibility. Okay, what is out of that grows some sort of responsibility towards other people who don't have it as good as me at an initial stage, because what you make out of it then, and I built something, I might say, and this is something that I don't know, I can take in either way responsibility for, but I did something with my privilege. However, so this is now coming from a very like honest place for me. I am super much struggling with feeling worthy of receiving big time. And so I also know that, I used to be super much in my masculine, meaning no ability to receive, no, just executing, just getting, like conceptualizing, intellectualizing, and then acting upon that and making things happen in a structured manner. And I don't know, just like, this kind of energy, this softness, this like receiving, this dance, this connection to the divine, and that trust in whatever is happening is for the highest, and then also feeling worthy and raising my inner vibration to a space where I can then attract even more beauty into my life and not repel it because I don't feel worthy. This is like a journey that I'm on big time. I think I progress, so to speak, but there's a long way to go because I don't actually even know why. It is just present. So
I can speak to this a little bit. There's so many ways. You could literally probably spend like a year in conversation on this topic alone. So many of us have the same imprint around worthiness, and that's not random. It's part of the collective wound that we each then also have to work out individually. And as we do, we can see it in another and raise them up as well, right? So when I value myself, I also value you. I value my presence. I value your presence. And when I treat you as such, it gives you permission to recognize that in yourself, to soften and kind of pass that on. We kind of like, that's how we do this work. But something I was reading actually last night in a book by Harville Hendricks called Conscious Loving. It's just a simple, beautiful book about intimate relationships. There's this sentiment that so many of us in childhood, we're having these like peak moments of joy. We're like learning how to ride our bike, and then we fall and we had a lot of pain, or we're having playtime and then we have to clean up and it's time for dinner, or like whatever it is, like whatever your thing was in your childhood. But there's this arc that we learn that when things start getting good, then we get hurt, or then they have to stop. And it's this like very simple but very pervasive imprint that we learn from very early on, that what goes up must come down. And I hear this all the time. I've been making a lot of TikToks about this exact topic recently because there's so much feedback in the comments about worthiness and what this book offered, that just, I've been exploring this in my own life. It was beautiful to hear the same language from these authors who have spent decades studying these things, was that we do have to oscillate. We do have to ride a wave, but that wave doesn't have to be positive, negative. It can be positive rest, positive rest, positive rest. And I love that. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I think the way that we alchemize the negative into rest is just by being with it and not resisting it. Because that's really how your ability to receive, to expand your capacity for blessings to come to you, to magnetize things, your worthiness, all of that. It is a very embodied nervous system related experience. I've been feeling this for the last year after healing heartbreak. As my heart has been opening, it's actually continuing to open. And every time it opens, I'm like, oh my God, I can actually love this much. I can love all the people as deeply as I can, and I can be loved at this scale. And I'm physically feeling ache in my heart as it expands. And so I'm like having to sit with like, okay, can I rest in this ache? And can I be with this this growing pain? And then I do, and then I go back out in the world, and it just fucking keeps going, and my heart keeps growing. And that's just been my personal experience, but I can feel that that's a really true way that we can choose to go from, great things are happening, like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Like, okay, I'm in this beautiful space. Let me just rest in it. Let me be in it. Let me pause in it. And then the next wave can come. Is that resonating? Does that feel like true in your experience?
Well, like it is. So yes, it is resonating, and I feel like I aspire to live like that. I would love to invite this into my life, for sure. Have I done it in the past up to now? Not really. And okay, so this is my podcast. I'm just gonna go for it. This is an apartment where I'm sitting in right now. Okay, it's my first own place. Okay, it's beautiful. I think it's very big and in a beautiful environment and whatnot. And I moved in here with my now ex-girlfriend, and it's literally a couple of weeks since we parted ways, and that's a thing on its own. But yeah, I'm telling you, from the first week that I moved in here, I felt unworthy of being in this space. It's just like that. The neighborhood, everything, it's very posh, it's very luxurious, everyone has a lot of like wealth built around them, materialistic, and I don't know, it's just like, it just screams privilege, and it screams capitalism in some way. And some part of me enjoys that, obviously, because it's just unbelievably comfortable. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's just aesthetic. You just walk through the streets and all the gardens are just like well kept, and it's just like there's just beauty. It's just like fucking beauty. Like the architecture, everything is just like people with their money take care of this piece of land here. I don't know. It's just, and all of that is just like this beautiful symphony of human and nature sort of like intertwining to this experience that is like basically rendering here in 3D around me. So with all that being said, now it's all coming to an end. Exactly 1 year after I moved in here, because yes, my partner and I, we are now not together anymore. So now the place is too big for one of us. So we both go our ways, and out of that, like all security is stripped away from me. I'm like in free fall, complete, like relationship gone, apartment gone. Therefore, job, I have to make some adjustments because like my whole situation is changing, and so. I don't know. I will say I saw it, or like I felt it coming, that this place will fall away. And of course it falls away at some point. I don't know, maybe we also would have gotten children or something, and then we would have moved to something. But it manifests like that, and I can see that quite clearly now. And it's good to talk about it, to share that. And now to fix that, or not to fix, but to there's nothing to fix, but I'm really committed of not to not do this again that way, or not to live my life like this again when beautiful things are happening to me. Because honestly, I think, I don't know, my intention is coming from a very loving and good way with most of the stuff, or all of the stuff that I'm doing. My impact, I'm trying to align it to my intention. So intention and impact are very close to aligned. And then there's me being just a human, obviously, with all its flaws and stuff. So, I might, not perfectly manage that. But yes, it arrives perfectly. I totally resonate with what you're saying. This is my experience right up until now. This is a very tangible example of where I can feel it manifest in my life. And can
I speak to this moment?
Yes, please.
I have a question I'll ask you in a second, but
please.
One of my favorite books, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, she talks about how all thriving is mutual. And she's a botanist and a indigenous woman as well, and just like her whole everything that she says and the way that she says it is just really lands for me. And the way that she speaks about how all thriving is mutual is very important to me, because it's very common collectively in our society to take on the righteousness or the wrongness of pursuing wealth or comfortability or luxury or whatever way you want to put that, because there's something, we get some kind of clout from like demonizing those at the top of the pyramid. But actually, if we look at nature and earth, like all thriving, genuine thriving is mutual. And so if you had all that you needed to thrive, you would then be this overflowing cup that could pour that back out into the world and continue to bless your world. And when it's not about me, Sophie, or you, Maxi, having the cool apartment or the cool house or the cool clothes or whatever the things are, because that's never the point. It's just, these are the conditions that allow us to be in our service so that we can shine back out and contribute to the thriving at another level. And so I'm bringing this in because I think a lot of people attribute worthiness, or even just like letting themselves have what they want, with being somehow wrong. And I would love to dissolve that into the recognition that like, actually I want, like, yeah, I don't, it's hard to tie that up neatly with a bow at the end of the point there. And maybe I'll just turn it back to you with the question, like, but what does it mean to receive these things for you? You said that a couple times throughout this conversation, that you like receiving is hard, or receiving is kind of this like integrated expression of the masculine. A man who can receive, whatever that means, at whatever level, is some form of mastery of that. And that goes hand in hand with worthiness, right? If things come to you, and can you be with them? So what does it mean to receive?
Well, I think I
What does it feel like to receive?
Yeah. I mean, in the purest sense, in the deepest sense, it feels great. Actually, to receive. And when I'm speaking about, and I'm referring to receiving, I'm speaking and referring to life offering things, relationship, people, places, circumstances to me, and I am not able to tie them to a specific action or something that I did to make this happen. This is what I mean by receiving. Because otherwise I'm still associating it a little bit with like a reward for my work, like fruit of my labor in some way. And this is not what I want to, like, this is a different compartment for me. I'm speaking more synchronicity. I'm speaking about things where I'm like, wow, this is like, why is this happening for me? And so initially, and in that moment, it always is it's a blessing. It feels great. And then it's this tendency to not leave it like that. Like it just cannot just be that experience. It cannot be just receiving. It then has to be blown completely out of proportion into this like, like ego thing, like deserving and comparing and putting it into relation and all. Then it just starts getting complicated, quote unquote. And sometimes I'm finding things to connect it to, and then I can basically construct a story around it, like how I deserve this. But obviously we are speaking about a way deeper place. We are just speaking about receiving on the soul. I don't know. And I embrace the divine coming in. Boom. No questions asked. Like, why should I not receive this? There is just love.
I had a conversation with a friend last night over text about this exact topic, about receiving. And it's at one level, receiving and giving is a very true flow of energy. But at another level, receiving doesn't exist. There's no there's no separation of by which anyone is giving or receiving.
Yeah.
And I think part of the purpose of being at the level where we give and receive is to enter flow, where what I receive is just moving through me. And I don't have to understand it. Yes, it is helpful at times for us to have coherent narratives and to understand why things are happening and how that fits into our identity or how that fits into what we know or believe about the world. But more often, way more often, I think it's more relevant to go into the body, to the level of breath and sensations, and actually just be with what is. and experience your receiving by way of the body. I've had a lot of training in Vipassana in Buddhism, and the practice is of equanimity and awareness. It's, can you be with what is, and if it's good, can you just let it be and let it go? And if it's bad, whatever that means, can you just let it be and let it go? How do we stop resisting and reacting to all the things and just allow? Because that isn't just about receiving. That also means that it goes both ways. It goes all ways. But I think it's helpful to bring in that there are levels at which things are true and other levels where those things dissolve. And sometimes that awareness helps us just to bridge the gap of communicating with people when some people don't see what you see. And it's nice to remember, oh, okay, there's actually lots of vantage points, and that's part of the fun. But especially when it comes to worthiness, it's like, if I am fully here to realize myself, to actualize myself, to love my neighbor, to be of service in this world, like whatever your most like beautiful packaged way of saying like what you're here to do is, I think for all of us it comes down to like, well, if you're going to do that, like the wholeheartedness by which you do that matters. And to chip away at that work, whatever way that works for you. For a lot of people, it really helps to seek help, to have a therapist, to have a coach, to have a community, to have friends who see you in your worth and they see you in your potential and they hold you there. That can heal so much. But I think no matter what way it is, getting to the place where you recognize that you receiving is divine. And it's not like, it's not wrong. It's not part of the problem. Because if you're actually connected to your service, then what you receive, like, to share my context right now, I'm currently living in one of the most beautiful homes I could have ever dreamed of. And I'm here temporarily, like just for a few months. And the first couple days I was here, I was like, how did I get here? Like, what in the, like, I took a leap. I moved to a new city. I didn't really know anybody. I didn't know what I was doing. Kind of like Berlin, but different context here. And within 10 days of arriving here, I lived alone in one of the most beautiful homes with all these beautiful bedrooms. And I've just been inviting friends to come and live with me and hosting tea parties and like really wanting to use this space. And what I keep coming back to is like, this space isn't about me. This space is what is now allowing me to serve at such a higher level because I can bring people together. And when you bring people together, like that is one of the core healings that we can do for the collective, especially to bring people together around home-cooked food and candlelight and storytelling and laughter. Like, my gosh, do not undervalue the power of just a simple community dinner, because I mean, you can go do all the medicine ceremonies in the jungles you want, but it is truly like some of the purest, simple medicine is just like doing the dishes with friends, really. And so being able to have this space to just exist in for a moment is for me, it's part of my curriculum of reminding me like, heck yes, I'm worthy. And this is not about me at all. Because I've already committed that I'm in service to the goddess, or I'm in service to the collective, or whatever. I'm in service to truth and love, really. And because I've committed to that, I'm now being given everything that I need to fulfill that in the best way. And if I were to play into like, oh, but Sophie doesn't deserve this, then I can't serve anybody, especially not myself. So that's where I come back to like all thriving is mutual. Like, let yourself thrive.
Boom.
Yeah.
Mic drop. No, completely. Maybe I also haven't done it then completely wrong all this time, because just in this very room we did a like live podcast recording, and we had I don't know how many people, 20, 30 or something over, and we shared conversations and we did Q&A and we had conscious food and sang mantras and chanted, and everything was beautiful. So
Wow.
so yeah, but still very nice way of putting things, just like it allows you to be of service on a whole different dimension. I love that. And yeah, me and us sitting here is maybe a testament to that, because this is a result of me feeling comfortable enough to get this recorder and starting those conversations. If I were in a place of desperation or something like that and just surviving, I probably wouldn't have space to do something like that. And so yeah, that's very, very nice. I like that.
Can never know. Nothing is as linear as it seems, and we can never know the impact. Even you were just saying at the beginning of this call how like conversations you have with friends years ago, they're coming back and they're, hey, that really stuck with me. You're like, I don't know what I said, right? Like sometimes I think, you go to a yoga class or you do whatever and you're like, cool, that was a nice hour, or like that was a cool podcast, whatever, or like, you take it at that the value of whatever it was in the moment. And we forget that our bodies are so intelligent and they are so wise, and they don't forget anything, any emotion that's come through, any experience that's happened. That all we cannot help but reverberate the echo of everything that we ever do, ever, always, and everything that comes to us and through us. And so I think, when it's looking at, moments of our life, chapters of our life, or even just little wisdom nuggets we hear along the way, I always go back to trust that I trust my body, my soul, whatever. I trust that it gets integrated perfectly and in perfect timing. And that might be literally 40 years from now. I have no idea. But I love remembering that the chaos at one level is always harmony at another level, because harmony is the truth of this recipe here. And so sometimes you are asked to be on the front lines, trudging through your free fall, and you're asked to feel the emotions of free fall. You're asked, wow, okay, it's easy to trust when things are going good, but now that things are maybe not, do I still trust? Is my faith still real in this place? Like, but all of that is just part of the greater harmony.
Oh yeah. Theta healing by any chance?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did a session the other day, and
Oh.
God damn, I saw it crystal fucking clear. I was like, damn, I mean, Maxi, like, just get it. Like, would you just understand it? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, because you access the subconscious and it just like shoves it right into your face. Like, why are you not trusting? What's the issue? Like, this is awesome. Like, everything clicked. Like, honestly, I left this session. I was just like in pure bliss. It was just like, oh my God, like I'm just, this is in perfect synchronicity now. And yeah, full stop. That's it. Yeah. It was just really, really powerful reminder to bring the unconscious to make it conscious. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to just ground this for your listeners. And I'll say also that I gave my first ever live talk 2 weeks ago with a microphone in front of an audience. It's never something I've done, something I've always shied away from. And I was in, honestly, a state of pure channeling the whole talk. It was so beautiful, and it's up on my Instagram if anyone wants to go see it. But the premise of the talk was that I was to speak about, like, basically how do we get to this future that we all want to live in. And what I came to was, it's about allowing ourselves to come back into resonance again and again and again and again and again. And that resonance is only something that happens by way of our bodies and by way of how our bodies are in relation to the spaces that we are in with, the people, the birds, the trees, the wind. Like, resonance is a felt thing, and it is only by being in resonance with one another that we can choose the course for the collective that's actually in alignment with harmony, and being in resonance in your own self, where you have the clarity to know what's true for you and to act upon it. And so there's many ways to come into resonance. But I think, doing the subconscious work or whatever, but to come back into your heartbeat, to actually listen to the drumming, or to participate in the drumming and the dancing and the singing and the breathing and the ritual trance states of resonance that we don't have to play into the loops of psychologizing all of these things and healing and fixing and Just, can you come back into resonance right here, right now? Again and again and again and again and again and again. And I believe that that is our true work. And dinners with friends is an amazing way to be in group resonance, especially if you or if someone in that space has the courage to pause before eating or after eating or whatever it is. Having the courage to bring pause into spaces invites deeper levels of resonance. And again, because our bodies are so wise in ways that we will never be able to wrap our minds around, if we can just trust in the power of letting ourselves sink into deeper resonance, so much transformation, so much healing, so much alignment among all of these moving parts that seem so polarized but actually want the same things. It's by way of resonance. Yeah.
I'm resonating with that. Yeah. I think you're I think you're really the perfect person to ask this and to go there. I'm speaking to more and more women who feel incredibly disconnected from resonance, I would say. Due to different factors and reasons and stories. And so, I think you're a very good person to talk to about this. And I also think, you're emanating quite an embodied, feminine, being of I know, So, how this is really, I would really. I'm bringing those people to mind. What would you say can be helpful to connect to this also like feminine resonance and embodied ability to feel and to connect to what is that intuition and source?
The first word that I want to say is listening. But the actual how comes down to making space to be with yourself. For me personally, nothing has been as helpful as just being with myself and a bottle of coconut oil and maybe out in nature, whatever it is, but just there's so much noise. And so much of this noise benefits from you being disempowered. And so you have to go within to remember what even is your power? What does it feel like? Have you ever felt your power in your body? Have you felt the full capacity of your pleasure, of your love? You can actually have orgasms in your heart. Like, just to say, like, there's so much that our sensuous, animate, feeling, fleshy, earthy bodies are capable of. And the systems at play benefit from us not being connected to that. So one of the first, if you care about changing the world and activism at any level, I believe the best place to start is like, oh my God, play music that you love, light a candle, and touch your own body. For everyone, this goes for anyone of any body at all. There is just so much to be explored and healed, and you know, something that comes up for a lot of people, especially people who have not done this and are now 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and have rarely ever taken the pause to be with themselves. Maybe they've been lucky to have a partner who will touch them in ways that they like to be touched, but they don't do that for themselves. And so when these people have that first experience, oftentimes a lot of emotions come up. This isn't just like, you know, oh, can I be in some like third eye, crown chakra open, like spiritual experience? It's like, no, actually just to be with, like, wow, maybe I've never shown up for myself in this way because I didn't know. I didn't know. No one showed me. I didn't know how to listen to my body. I didn't know what it wanted. I didn't know how to give it what it needed, right? So there's a lot to break through and to feel through and to tenderly and compassionately love yourself through. But it's a practice. And so I recommend, for all of my clients, I do sex, love, and relationship coaching. I call it holistic love coaching. But I really work with particularly women and particularly reconnecting them to their embodied power by way of self-love, sexuality, and spirituality. And so for all of my clients, but just for anybody at all, I recommend making space at least once a week for at least 30 minutes to just be with yourself with no goal, with no agenda. Like, part of why I call myself a radical romantic. And part of why I do this is I believe your entire life is your love life. And I believe that God is the beloved and I am the beloved. And this whole thing is just this like gorgeous love story, dance, erotic play, lighthearted, just it's very tantric approach to things. But I think that when we come into our own bodies and we're alone with ourselves and we sit with the truth of our hearts and we sit with all of the grief we never felt and all of the pleasure we never let ourselves have and all of the joy that we have had, and we just can be with all that is, there is such a quality of love and truth and silence and stillness and orgasmic ecstasy and everything in between that can come from that. And I believe it's that we are all so thirsty for, that we are running around trying to fill that in any number of addictions and distractions and relationships. And I think that if every person, first and foremost, has a really fulfilling and nourishing and compassionate, enlivening relationship with their body, their sexuality, their heart, their truth, their soul, then, and really only then, can your relationships, your work, your life, all of these things be really held on truly solid foundation. And the beauty is it's actually as simple as a candle, a jar of coconut oil, and 30 minutes as often as you can bring that into your life. It's really not, it's what is it? It's not easy, but it's simple. It's how that goes. And just, you know, to just one final note about that, if you do this practice, always coming back to love, coming back to your actual sensations, coming back to just what do things feel like, being in the curiosity, being in the play, being in the innocence of your eros. That is what makes it really, really, really powerful and really healing. But yeah, oh my gosh, in the world that I want to live in, every person has a beautiful practice of connecting to their own body first and foremost. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah, I I wish that too so much. Speaking from, so now channeling a little bit into my masculine. Oh God, there's also nothing more attractive. God damn, like a woman who is in that energy. Oof, different cup of tea, completely.
Right. Power.
No words needed, nothing. It's just like emanating, and you're just like, it's so. And this is why, like, yeah, that's, and yeah, this is us having a conversation. So I'm referring to my experience. I want that. That's what you. I want that in a woman. I want to facilitate that, so that she can go into this space. Oh my God, like whatever that, and I know that this is all like an individual process for each one of us. But in partnership then, if I can support, if I can facilitate this, oh, beautiful, because I want that so much. Because then it again helps me to really, I'm learning so much about that as well. It reminds me of my first couple of acting classes years back, when I saw people move their bodies to the music in a way, no filter. They were just like channeling that, and seeing that is something where that whole sort of like, it's just pure experience in that moment, and it's so beautiful, and it makes you say, I want what they have. And there's none of that sort of, because for me it was like this third eye thing, like third angle, like I'm seeing myself and judging myself, like how do I move? Does that look good? Am I doing the right thing? But then I just realized, no, what I want is actually to be as free as those individuals are. This is unbelievably inspiring. So what I'm getting at is also to see people in their power like this is so powerful as well. To have like, to have people who can guide you. And this is also why I want a little bit, I don't know what the English saying is in German. We say we break a stick or something for someone, meaning that I want to break, like I want to put out that people should get help in that space, or like assistance, or like guidance, and go to people like yourself, and go to, I don't know, facilitation spaces where, I don't know, this is just the pure intention of creating this sort of safe space. Because yes, if you're completely inexperienced and completely disconnected from that, I mean, okay, then you have your cacao and your 30 minutes, and you're like, oh damn, like, I haven't connected to myself in years. I don't even know what I should do.
Right. And a lot of people really need also to balance that with you need to tell your story. You do need to be heard and seen and felt in your story, and to feel through those pieces, and having containers that can hold all of it. They can hold your shame, can hold your guilt, your grief, all of your ugly bits, all of that, and give you more tools, more permission, more space, more invitation into your own self. But I actually don't believe that people are disconnected.
Okay.
I don't think that's possible. And I think that there's the illusion of it, which seems real, but usually when I slow people down to their heartbeat, or to their womb space, or to whatever it is, like, because we are in the eternal now, where everything is always, when they come back into that, it's like, oh right, I didn't go anywhere. I haven't, nothing, like, I'm here. And there are little reminders. And I think one of the great things when you're on that dance floor and you see people moving in these ways, and if you can do two things: one, allow everyone's shine to be a permission, like at any level, dancing or career-wise or otherwise. Like whenever you see someone out there just getting it, permission rather than threat. That shift, massive. And the other being something that I think about and I work with a lot is this object versus subject. A lot of us have been taught and actually enjoy to some degree objectifying ourselves. There's like a type of feedback that we get from that nourishes kind of a false part of ourselves, but it nourishes nonetheless a part of ourselves that we keep there. And so when you're on the dance floor and you're like, how do I look? Am I moving good? Whatever. To shift from being the object into being the subject. I am here. Like, what does it feel like in my body? Where are the edges? How can I explore? What does that edge actually feel like? And let yourself, again, be in the driver's seat. Like, be in the delight of your experience. Not for anyone else's, like, what shape is my body making? But like, actually, the more I can enjoy, that's the true gift that I'm offering to the body, not being aesthetically pleasing shape or whatever. But I really like that. Like, how can I re-subjectify myself? Call back that power from the eyes of others into the actual phenomenological sensations in your own soma. You know?
I mean, I agree 100%. I just by being exposed to enough workshops and dances and ecstatic dances and acting stuff and whatnot, I went through it myself, so I have like points of reference where I feel like yeah, for sure, Sophie's right. Yep, it is that. And I also the threshold is getting way smaller. Like I maybe need a couple of moments into any event or into any workshop, and then I can basically tune into that, and I just know myself, and I know like the kind of narratives that I quickly need to go through to let go of that, to then like just be present.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, so this was last week. I was doing a workshops around archetypes, a beautiful workshop, and there were a couple of men as well, and not as many as women. It was more female, but there were a couple of men, and I was one of them. And you wouldn't believe, and this is why disconnection, I don't know if, maybe it's not the right word, but how unfamiliar or something, in that case, men were to their own sensuality and at one point we as men had to dance for the women, and they were not allowed to affirm anything, so no facial expression of confirmation, no, it was just pure watching, okay? And it was like us just moving ourselves however we wanted to the music that was playing. And in hindsight we then like shared a little bit, and the level of discomfort for those men was nearly unbearable. Like one or two nearly left the whole seminar after that experience because they just couldn't bear like holding this. And the facilitator did a great job in facilitating that and then moving through it and stuff. But I'm just saying, and also all women were like, oh my God, like it didn't look like you were having such a bad like or hard time. And I was like, yeah, welcome. I mean, the armor that we put on, it's ridiculous. And it's, I don't know, it takes, like, I can just say, it took 2023. The first kind of workshop I did was 2018. yeah, and now I'm slowly sort of like feeling a little bit more comfortable, but oh my God, it's a process. Yeah, it's really a process. And so, yeah, it's
Yes.
beautiful, but I'm just saying, like, it's so hard for some
Yeah.
people.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's so much in that little story that you just shared, like so much in there. And I would second that. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and experience and steps forward and steps back and steps forward and steps back. Like it takes, and it's non-linear. So for anyone out there who's like, oh, this all sounds really cool and I want to do this and I want to live like that and I want to be in my body and I want to be able to, take off my mask and to be free, like recognizing, yeah, it takes time, and like it's the eternal now. Every moment is your invitation to that. And when I was living in Germany, I went to a lot of workshops as well. There's a lot going on in terms of this kind of work, and some really like interesting cutting edge expressions of this work in particular I found in Berlin around I'm not even going to speak to some of it, but there's some interesting stuff going on. And I found myself in some really weird spaces where I also was like, I don't know if I should be here right now. Yeah, I'll never tell some TikTok stories about some of the things that I experienced in those spaces, but just know, like, I know what you mean. And there's a few things. Like, one, we have to be very careful, oh my gosh, to not create more ruptures in healing spaces that aren't contained or whatever. And it sounds like the facilitator of that did a really good job, but
Yes,
I heard in it the reminder of all of the potential, because especially in this world where like anyone can go online and get a degree or a certificate in like any kind of whatever and then just like have a retreat, and anyone can be a space holder and a whatever, it's like there's a deep discernment required to really know who to work with, how to work with them, and also, but first and foremost, beyond all of that, that you recognize the power of your own consent and sovereignty, that you can leave spaces anytime. Doesn't matter what money you put down. You have to know that like you can excuse yourself from things and whatever. Oh, but it is a fine line, because when you're in that moment to make those choices, you're like, but is this my ego? And am I running away from this da? And what I want to ground that all in is like, the part of the reason I work so deeply with pleasure and with sexuality is because healing can be pleasurable. And I went through a really abusive route. I did not take that route. And the amount of work that I put for myself on the back end, thinking that I could take the fast track, unbelievable. And so to just note that if you find yourself in spaces and in workshops and these kinds of things where like you're at your edge, like the nervous system needs to go at a pace that it can actually digest the experiences. And there's just, it's hard to speak to how to navigate that, but just know that you have the power to. And you are your own caretaker first and foremost. Even an amazing shaman or an amazing space holder, you know best for you. And that's really what all this path is about, is returning you to your core power, your core listening and your intuition. And so exercising it, even if it's just practicing it, exercising it, but allowing that is so important.
Yeah. Amen. Like, it's very important to say that. It's very important. I agree 100%. Like, this space holding and stuff, also virtually, I find very
hard.
Yes. Because it's
navigate
powerful.
Myself.
Yeah, because sometimes you cannot even, you don't have access to the person, like they're just somewhere, I don't know, and like internal processes are like starting, and I don't know, you're just across a screen, And so, yes, very important. Yeah, yeah. Own sovereignty and don't also surrender to and give up anything, like completely, I don't know, go out and like you are your own caretaker as well, and you are a sovereign being, and you should and have to step up for yourself in any sort of environment of that sort. I completely agree, because it is, yeah. I mean, intention and impact, you know, the intention might be coming from a loving place, but I don't know, there can be just simply inexperienced with some conditions of people, what they bring, trauma or something like that. You never know. And you have, this is also why I'm incredibly hesitant to put myself even more out there when it comes to workshops or something like that, because I see the responsibility that comes with. And so very, very, cool that you bring that up.
And I'm actually stepping more into that responsibility now, because I've been through, first of all, I have an incredible mentor. I have really beautiful lineage and teachers and people that I feel very held accountable by, and also like I really have experienced as a participant and as a facilitator, like what it feels like when a container is clean and held and properly integrated and properly facilitated. And so because of that, I'm like, oh, I can't sit on the sidelines. Like I really have a very powerful gift, and I recognize how to wield my power. And that's not to say that there aren't moments where your shit gets triggered or whatever, but a powerful facilitator can own that, recognize that, name that, hold that, and continue going. And others don't do that in such a way. But I was actually thinking it could be nice, circling back, you shared about how now when you go into those workshops, you actually have like a little bit of like a self-talk you have to do to get into the space. Yeah. I have the same, and I want to share mine, and I'd love if you would share yours.
Yeah.
So, and I actually did this even before this podcast. I was like sitting out in the garden, and I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I got a podcast right now, like, and then I was like, I've got it. I have my little script, and this is what I say to myself: there is no one I need to be. There's no one I need to be. There's nothing I need to do. There's nowhere I need to be. I'm free. It's so simple. But just to give myself like, oh yeah, there's no role I have to play. There's no right thing to do. I don't have to be anywhere else doing anything else. I'm free. That's what I say. And it works so well. I do it all the time. What's yours?
Yeah, I share it in just a second. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. It's funny that you said that, because I used to live and spend a lot of time in a Zen Buddhist monastery as well. And one of the core teachings of that lineage was nothing to do, nowhere to go. So that was just coming up when you were sharing that. Very beautiful. I really love that. For me, do you know Michael Singer by any chance?
I do.
Yeah, so I'm really resonating with his teachings, and that there is no separation. Like, it's not like the spiritual life and experience starts somewhere and the human experience ends or something like that. It's just like, this is it. And every interaction, anything can be spiritual, you know? So that being said, I just look at, in those moments when entering an ecstatic dance, or I could speak to like one event that I really like in Berlin. It's like a primal play party where you're just like, okay, yeah, you know. Okay, well, she'd be like, oh, dude, that I went there and it was horrible. No, but what I say to myself and what I feel into is really what's going on. And what is going on is that we are on this tiny fucking like minuscule pale blue dot in the middle of nowhere, spinning around in empty space, and I am incarnated in this sensory suit, worrying about what like other sensory suits next to me might say about me or whatever. When I want to go down that rabbit hole, I know that they will say, "Oh, this is awesome! How this guy is just like freely expressing himself. This is fucking awesome. I want that." So that's actually what they want to say, or what they will say most likely. But not even getting into that. Just like I'm spinning through empty space. This is awesome music. I'm gonna move my body to this. This is awesome. And yeah, like closing my eyes obviously helps, just like to be with myself. And then it takes me a couple of seconds, and then when I'm opening my eyes, I'm feeling like then I'm already moving, and then I'm already in a state of like non-attachment to these things, and it's flowing. So that's usually the kind of mantra I engage in. Yeah, just really, yeah. That's also why I love the pictures of NASA and like the Webb telescope and whatnot. When I'm just seeing that, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is just, it's so beautiful. And I'm part of it, and I can engage with it. It's so awesome. Yeah. How are we looking on time for you? Do you get
time is infinite, but my energy is nearing completion. So I'd love to find an organic way to wrap this up.
Thank you so much for sharing your truth there. I think it's very important to have also healthy boundaries and stuff. So I appreciate that. I want to ask like some quick questions towards the end.
I'll try to give quick answers.
Yes.
I have the tendency to just like speak from my heart.
If you like, if you want to do that, you do it. Okay. Talking about worthiness and stuff, what are you proud of?
What am I proud of?
Yes.
Oh, I am proud of my grace and boldness and devotion. I think all of those qualities have allowed me both spiritually and materially to live in my highest potential, whatever that means, and to really I look at myself in the mirror often, and I see a little girl, I see a young woman, I see a teenager, I see all of myself. And I also see myself as an elder when I look in the mirror. Like I see like the full span of this human life just like folded into this body in this moment, but you can kind of like unfold it and see it all. And so when I think of what I'm proud of, it's like very proud of who I've been every step of the way. And I'm proud of the people who I get to play with, not just like my friends and community, but I mean we live in a really beautiful moment. There are so many amazing innovators and thinkers and dreamers and weavers and healers and activists and leaders that are actually demonstrating how to lead from the heart and how to really do right by this world. So I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the role that I'm letting myself rise into on a greater scale in this world. And I'm proud of who I get to play with and who's already paved the way. Yeah. Lots of pride.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, say that. Yeah, say that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess the last one, I don't even want to make it a question. I want to just open up the space, because I know that you are working your ass off with your newest business endeavor, or like your offering and your course. And I just want to give you
It's changing
space.
shape, actually. So
Sorry?
it's changing shape, actually. So having some space to chat about it could be nice.
Yes, I wanna open up that thing. Like, what are you working on? What lights you up? What
Yeah.
How, yeah.
So the heart of my work is my work with my one-on-one clients, and I love that so much. And I have an application form on my website for anyone that wants to read more about it or apply. You can always just send me an email or a direct message on any platform as well, but the application's like the best way. And that is like so much of what I love doing, because I to walk with people and to witness them open, blossom like flowers, and just to like smell this like field of flowers that are shining, that are people that I just like sat with during their process. To me, that's like so amazing. And I spent the beginning of this year exploring a type of offering that I've received the intuitive call to decompose. And so I decomposed that offering, and it's no longer alive. And I'm actually spending this moment, I'm in a really beautiful rebirth portal right now, personally, spiritually, on a lot of levels. I am in a huge rebirth portal. And the dance of having a business that is run from my heart and my womb, and it's not me, but it is me. It's very interesting to be going through this personal transformation while also incubating my business. So I'm spending a lot of time and energy and devotion right now pulling through what the real truth of my next offering is. And I don't have anything to share on that in this moment. But I recommend, if any of your followers want to be a part of that, follow me on TikTok or Instagram, or join my email list, because I am working very hard to create, based on my past experiences of learning what works and what doesn't work. I'm really dedicated now to have a much higher impact, and like to really facilitate the transformation that I know I'm able to. And so there's a lot coming on the horizon. And finally, I am working with a really cool team on a project that it's a retreat in September in Spain, and that's all I will say about it right now. But on the team are some elders, some really experienced practitioners. And so that's going to be really cool as well. So if you want to know more about that, also join my email list. That will be, information on that will be shared soon. Yeah.
Awesome. I have numerous people that I will forward your profile and this conversation once it's out too, because I think it's absolutely incredibly valuable and important work. I had people on here speaking about men's work, and I think that this is very important for us to get initiated, for us men. And likewise, I think it's absolutely beautiful and very vital and important to have people like you working with women and connecting them to their feminine. And I want to say that, and I want to thank you. And yes, it's very beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Woo!
Yes.
Beautiful.
Alrighty.
This is fun.
Yeah.